A civil lawsuit alleges rapper Jay-Z sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl back in 2000. The lawsuit was originally filed against Sean Diddy Combs back in October, then refiled on Sunday to add Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter. The plaintiff, identified as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both men at a Video Music Awards after party. The artists have denied those accusations. Now, in a statement through his company, Roc Nation, Jay-Z responded to the lawsuit and the lawyer representing the plaintiff, saying, quote, "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Busby. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud that you are," his words, in a very public fashion. "So no, I will not give you one red penny," end quote. Now, the lawyer, Busby, did not immediately respond for comment on this, but has refuted Carter's accusations of blackmail on social media. Meanwhile, Sean P. Diddy Combs is still in custody in New York, awaiting his trial on federal sex trafficking charges. He tried to secure bail, but was denied several times. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joins us now to go over this lawsuit. Welcome, Jessica. A lot to talk about here. What can you tell us about the timing of Jay-Z's allegations, since he wasn't named in that initial lawsuit filing?
That's right. Well, we don't know for sure, but in hearing Jay-Z's response, I think one possible scenario is that the attorneys came to him and said, "We'd like X amount of money, and if you don't give it, then we are going to name you in a civil suit." Now, again, we're reading tea leaves here, but it would be reasonable to think that there was some discussions, let's say, behind the scenes. And sometimes what happens is that a celebrity feels like the accusations alone are so harmful that it's worth it for them to say, okay, here's this pot of money. Sometimes they feel like saying, giving over the money and having that potentially be reported will look like they're admitting guilt. Here, what we have is Jay-Z being extremely unequivocal in saying, not me, not it, no way, no how. And in fact, I think we might see a situation where Jay-Z and his attorneys might go after the attorney who filed the case, potentially asking for sanctions, potentially saying that this is a frivolous suit and or that there was no good faith basis to add Jay-Z to this complaint.
Now, given that this is a civil lawsuit, Jessica, what are your thoughts on the plaintiff still going under the name Jane Doe in this lawsuit? If she wants this to continue forward, will we eventually learn her name?
It depends, but there are lots of public policy reasons why, when it comes to a suit like this, when it comes to allegations of sexual assault that were perpetrated against a minor, that we say that you can remain anonymous. Now, again, I wish I could give you a specific answer, but in part, it depends on how far this case goes, whether or not we might hear testimony. But I think it is important for people to know that the law does provide protection many times for people filing these types of suits, particularly, again, against very powerful celebrities, because regardless of what you think of this specific case, you can understand there are reasons why we would want to protect people's privacy when it comes to these types of cases.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned this earlier in your first answer, but just to remind our viewers, Jay-Z filed a lawsuit against the attorney representing the plaintiff. What does his lawsuit allege?
Essentially that this is a frivolous case, that it amounts to extortion, and this is the most forceful way that you can respond to this type of allegation, meaning not just Jay-Z isn't just saying, I am not liable. It's not guilt, it's liability because it's a civil suit, but he's saying, I am the victim of a shakedown and I want to vindicate my rights. And what you can see in these situations is sometimes an attorney could be held in contempt for filing a case or for adding a particular party. Sometimes these are pretty extraordinary circumstances. You can see an attorney that's actually reported to the state bar where they work. But this is part of, I think, the lawsuit, obviously, that Jay-Z filed. It's a lawsuit in and of itself, but it's also the most forceful response you can possibly give.
Any chance that this could turn into a criminal case, given that it happened in 2000?
I don't think so, based on the statute of limitations. The suit was filed in Obviously, it's a civil case in federal court under a New York law that provides a so-called look back, meaning that the statute of limitations, there's an exception, and it opens up for specific types of allegations for a specific window of time. We saw this in the case that E. Jean Carroll brought against President Trump. There was a look back provision in one of those cases. Similar thing here.
All right, CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Thanks so much, Jessica.